Hey guys, it's me, and today I want to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking me my whole life, and more importantly, they've been asking me a lot recently, especially online. And that question comes in many forms, but it always distilled down to the same thing, which is, in one form or another, why are you like this? Whether it's the dead rat alarm clock, the barbecue puke shower curtain, dead animals in the house, or any other one of the stories that are just an indicator of me living like a complete fucking animal, people always wonder, why would a person live like this? Why would a person be like this? Why am I like this? And I think that honestly, there's a lot of answers for this. I really don't want to make this like a super long video. So hopefully I can distill it down to some main points and not really go off on too many tangents, although I think that I probably will, because there's a lot of like history with it and everything like that. And so basically the first thing you need to know about me is that I actually, if you can believe this, I know this might sound shocking, is that I actually have not always been like this. This is a relatively new thing for me. And I think that it really kind of started a lot when I would say in high school, and then later on it kind of entered phase 2. And that was probably somewhere around 21 or 23, somewhere around there in those age groups. And that's whenever, the degeneracy really kind of went, it ratcheted up to the next level. I leveled up, new expansion release, DLC, etc., right? And so this happened then, because as a kid, I was actually very much like a very conscientious kid in the way that I basically didn't really want to be perceived in a negative way. I wanted to be seen as a good person, etc. And I've always had a big problem with being able to like relate to other people because I think that I'm just a little bit off, right? I wouldn't say that I don't have a moral compass, but I would say that my moral compass doesn't point north. And this has been a problem in a lot of cases in my life, whether it's with relationships or friendships or anything in between. I've had a lot of problems because of that. And in the process of this, I've learned a lot of things about myself. And the main thing is that my take and my view on moral issues is not really what I would say a normal person thinks. And this has caused me a lot of problems, and especially like as a young kid, being able to like interact and fit in with people, it's a weird dichotomy because the truth is I actually always did have a lot of friends, and I never had problems making friends, but at the same time, I always felt like I was very different from a lot of other people because of the way that I felt. I used to have, for a comparison, just a point of reference, I guess you could say, I used to have my mom read me all of the different like sins in the Bible and everything, because I understood, even as a little kid, I'm like, there's something wrong with you. You better learn this so that way there aren't any problems in the future. And so I would have her read all of these to me. That way I would understand how to behave, right? Because it just never came naturally to me. Things that come naturally to other people were not natural and are not natural. It's not like things have changed. If anything, they've probably gotten worse as I've gotten older. And so I've always had a big problem being able to like understand like where, how you should act, how you should treat people, what you should do, how you should say things, etc. So almost everything that I do is a learned performance rather than an innate social, instinct, if that makes sense. And hopefully the performance is good. I consider myself kind of a good actor, at least, right? But of course there are going to be cracks and outtakes as well. And so those are usually in the form of the Twitter clips with 100,000 likes. And so anyway, as a kid, I was always treated this way. And, people thought that I was a little bit off, a little bit weird. Like one time, like for example, there was a kid that I was like playing the baseball with him, and he was annoying me, making me mad. And so I hit the ball, and I hit it with the explicit intention of hitting him in the face with the ball. And I did. And so I remember there's blood all over the kid's face. He like broke his tooth and everything, and everybody was standing around like what the fuck, like what? This is like terrible. And I remember walking up. This was like the best day of my fucking life. This happened, and I was so happy. And I could see that other people were made very uncomfortable around this. And that's whenever I started trying to like really kind of mask my emotions and how I felt about things, because it was very evident to me that I was not really normal. And this has been, again, a huge problem my whole life, but that was pretty much the first, at least the time that I can remember in my mind, the first time that I can remember that and see that, wow, this didn't go over the way that I thought it would go over, because I was so happy and nobody else is happy and they think I'm like a bad person. But it's like, you know, from my perspective, that's not how I saw it. And, you know, from my perspective, rip bozo. So this is a big problem. And this happens in middle school as well. I cared a lot about, like, how I looked, how I dressed, etc. in middle school. I mean, really, who doesn't? And, you know, I really tried to you know, like, take myself seriously, and, you know, I tried to have a good impression, etc., do the right things, say the right things, wear the right things, be the right kind of person. And going into high school, I kind of got, there's a weird thing where, like, I ended up going to, like, one high school that I didn't want to go to, and then I ended up going to another high school after that, after I told my parents that if they didn't change me over, I would kill myself and fail every single class, which, to be halfway, I was halfway followed through with that, because my first semester in that high school, I had a GPA of a .08. It was actually impressive. It was hard to do. I had to go out of my way for this. And so then I ended up getting transferred over, and I went to the school where my friends were. And I think that, like, the high school that I had originally gone to was a much more superficial, much more, like, you know, like a higher class high school, because my dad wanted me to go there because, you know, like, he wanted me to go to school to get an education. Imagine that. I wanted to go to school to hang out with my friends. So there was a bit of a disconnect there. And so I go over to the other school, and I realized that I need to stop caring about what people think about me, because I saw the people that were in that other school, and I realized that's not the kind of person that I wanted to be, because they were the more extreme version of the person that I was trying to be. And at that point, I realized that I didn't really want to be like other people, and I had to develop, I guess, my own identity. And this was at, like, I would say 14 or 15. And that happened, and that continued all the way through high school. And, you know, I was always like, you know, I never really had a girlfriend, right, in high school or anything like that. Maybe, you know, I talked to a girl, but not really, okay? And so I was never really treated very well by, you know, a lot of girls or anything like that. And big surprise, imagine that. And so anyway, this happened, and, you know, I kind of got used to this, and it was normal. So I would try to improve myself and, you know, like, make myself look better and try to do this, and it would just be met with the same outcome, which was a massive failure. Big surprise. You know, being a level 60 warrior isn't as attractive to women as it is to other 16-year-old guys. And so anyway, I had this happen, and, you know, I eventually kind of got to the point where I was more comfortable with that, and I stopped really caring as much about what, you know, like, people would think about me, and, you know, in general, just, like, people's perception of me. And this kind of got worse as time goes on. And I think that I spent, like, my teenage years primarily trying to disconnect myself and trying to remove myself from the obligation to be a certain kind of person to the public, and just to society in general. I viewed society as, you know, I never chose to be here. This was not up for discussion. I just spawned in here, and so it's like I have to follow these rules. I have to do all of these things. I have to be this kind of a person. And then, you know, when I was like 17, 18, 19, I asked myself, well, why am I doing this? And so I stopped doing all of that stuff, and I've done many degenerate things, none of which I regret. Nothing at all in my life that I've ever regretted at all. But you know, I would do things that a lot of people would consider to be very improper, let's just say that. And so I never really viewed myself, I never really viewed it as like a good or a bad thing. I just, you know, simply existed, and I did what I would do. And that was it. And at that point, I pretty much had completely disconnected myself from the perception of other people. And this was at the same time, like, growing up, my mom was, I think there was maybe 2 years or so where she made above the poverty level in terms of income. And so we basically barely skated by most of the time. And primarily the reason for that, honestly, is because my dad always paid child support, etc., at least until I was 18. And, you know, all that time, you know, she was able to skate by with that and pretty much survive. After high school was over, then obviously like that stopped, and then she wasn't able to support herself, so I was having to figure out ways to make money and try to like piece together money. She would borrow money sometimes from my dad, and it was in general like a very, very negative situation, and so we never really had any money. This was the time where you know, I was pretty much ironically at the peak of my degeneracy. I was probably one of the highest rated warriors in WoW. At the time, it was great, but not necessarily in real life. And so at this point, I had pretty much completely disconnected myself from the way that people saw me. And I stopped caring about the way that people saw me because I pretty much gave up on being like a normal person. I gave up on being accepted by the public. I gave up on living a normal life or, you know, having a family or anything like that. I just felt like I just was not capable of that based off of my experiences that I had. And I had many other ones too. Like I stabbed somebody and a few other things too. I probably wouldn't even say because they would too drastically alter people's perception of me. But either way, you know, a lot of these instances where I kind of was like, okay, this is bad. Maybe it's better that I'm, you know, quarantined in my house. And so anyway, I did this a lot, and my mom and I, like, it was really just kind of the two of us. My dad was there, he was supportive, and he always has been supportive. But other than that, I do have family, but none of them live in the state of Texas. And so any trouble, any problems, anything like that, it was pretty much entirely on me to resolve this issue. And so take care of my mom, pay for things, anything like that, it was always on me. And her health started deteriorating at about the same time. This is big surprise. You smoke since you're 16. You spend your entire time smoking cigarettes, watching Ancient Aliens, and fucking around on the internet playing WoW, and you're overweight massively like she was. This isn't good for your health, especially when you're getting into your 60s, which she was at that time, because she had me when she was like 39 and a half or 40 or something. And so at this point, you know, her health was deteriorating, and I remember like she had like a number of instances where like I would like wake up and I hear her like screaming because she would like I don't even really know what the fuck was wrong with her. I don't know. It was like a weird thing where like she couldn't see out of her eye, and then she had like some kind of like I think like a bleed in her eye, and then she had like I think it wasn't really a heart attack. There was like some sort of like variation of that. And I remember like her like begging me not to call the ambulance, and this is just like, and this is at the same time that you know, the house is fucking, you know, we can barely pay for the house. We're worried about getting evicted from the house. We have no AC, or no, we did have AC. We didn't have heat, and so you know, I would go to sleep and like the house would be so cold because I would just give her the heater. And I always viewed it as like, you know, oh, I'm sleeping out on Mount Everest, right? It's like, you know, I'm cosplaying as Bear Grylls. And I remember like my glass of water in my room, there would have like ice crystals on the edge of it, right? Because of how fucking cold it was. And so I did that really for like 2 years. And so we had like basically like zero money. And so this happened, and pretty much like her health would deteriorate more and more and more to the point where she couldn't drive, she couldn't do X, she couldn't do Y, she couldn't get a job anymore. And then it relied on me more and more to completely support her in like pretty much all ways. And so, and I remember she would like beg, like she was like on the ground like crying, begging me not to call an ambulance. And so this was very upsetting for me, by the way. Like I got to the point where like at this time period, I would wake up like every 2 hours or so with like a weird thing where I would hear her screaming my name. And this went on for maybe like 6 months to a year. And also I want to say that like all of this stuff and everything about it, I don't really, like, everybody in life has problems, and I hope that by sharing my problems, people can kind of see where I'm coming from as a person. I don't really care about sympathy. I don't care about people feeling bad for me. I don't really give a fuck. It doesn't matter to me. So I hope that nobody thinks that this is coming off as any form of a, you know, like sympathy play. You know, I've had things bad happen in my life. I think that in many cases they've been my fault. I've deserved them. But this is just what's happened. And so anyway, and every action and every outcome in my life leading up to now has led me to the position that I am right now. And I think that in a lot of cases I'm happy with how I am. And you can't just go back and edit out all the bad parts and expect to be in the good part. And so at the same time this was happening, like a lot of my friends were obviously going through college, finishing college, you know, having girlfriends, like moving in and everything. And I was worried about, you know, number one, my mom dying. Number two, my, being homeless, and number three, at that point, I had always assumed that I would kill myself after high school. Like, that was my plan. And, Wrath of the Lich King came out, and I just got distracted. I forgot. And so I ended up not doing that. And because of that, I never brushed my teeth in high school. Never really gave a fuck about it. Never cared. And this caused, guess what that causes? It causes your teeth to rot out. And so a lot of my teeth had to be, I had to get fillings and everything as a teenager. And my dad paid for a lot of it, which he was very, very unhappy about. And so these fillings would come out. This is what happens with fillings or anything like that. And they did come out, and then, of course, my teeth deteriorated naturally because I love soda. I love drinking soda. I've got a soda right over there. Went to McDonald's earlier today. Really, really like soda. Like it so much that right now I only have 5 real teeth left in my whole mouth. And I think you start with like 32, which is kind of crazy to think. And so, anyway, this happened. And all my teeth were starting to rot out. I was not able to eat with one side of my mouth. I would have these toothaches that would get so bad that I would pass out from the pain. And I eventually had to go to like the, basically, if you're like, the people that really get fucked by medical bills are the people that are in the middle of like, economically. Because if you're broke, like they'll do shit for you for like $10. If they can get anything, they'll do it. And so I had a program like that. And so they would have to pull out my teeth kind of regularly. And that's how I lost. I have no back teeth at all. That's why if you look at my jawline, it's very different than if you look at it from like, high school or like by the age of like 19 or 20. It's completely changed because I've lost all of my teeth and my jaw bone is like pretty much rotted out. And so, which as far as I know is unfixable, at least in the way that I have this problem. There's a separate problem that is fixable. I don't have that one. I talked to a dentist about it. So it's basically like irreversibly fucked. And so anyway, this happened, and it was not a great time. My teeth were rotting out, etc. And at that point, I had to completely, like, pretty much give up the notion and give up the dream of ever being a normal person. At that point, I could feel myself no longer being the same as anybody else, right? And I actually, for a while, I really hated it, but then I got used to it, and then I embraced it, and I think that's where I am now. So I would say like that was from like ages, like I would say 13 to I don't know, like 21, somewhere around there, right? Then after that, I started doing other stuff. I was playing WoW, I was making videos, I was doing other random things, right? And my mom's like health pretty much would always get worse, and that's just that's just the way it is when you get older, right? And so I would have to do my best to like take care of her, and worked at the IRS for a while. Tried to work at Sam's Club, didn't really go very well. But overall, I tried to go back to college. I do have a college degree, if you can imagine that, but learned more from business from WoW than I did from business school. And so then I spent that time, and then this was all the time, like, me not knowing if she would, every day I would wake up and like, hear that voice in my mind, and like, it was really, really bad. And this is just something I would do all the time, and I try to always make the best out of things. I try to just, not think about it, but, looking back on it, things were very, very bad. And so anyway, fast forward a little bit later, and that's whenever I was like going back to college. I thought that I would just, basically have a shitty job, play video games for my whole life, and then die, right? And then I got a shitty job, and I realized the shitty job is actually a lot more shitty than I thought it would be. So then I remember it was probably like one of the best things that ever happened to me, is that I took this job at Sam's Club, and I hated it so much, it actually encouraged me to make myself a better person, if you can imagine that. And so I signed up to go back to university and finish another degree that I was working on so I could go to law school. Actually, I wanted to be a lawyer, basically because I had a friend in high school. We would always play Magic the Gathering, and I could see him. He would always manipulate the rules to come out ahead and win different, like, arguments in Magic the Gathering. And I was like, I bet lawyers do that in real life. I should do that myself. And so that was always my motivation. And anyway, I did that, and then, a number of other things, random things that are not, I would say like YouTube or public safe that I did. And then after that, I started doing YouTube, and then I started doing YouTube, and I focused on that, and I would put videos out of the way that I lived, etc., and people would always find it to be very funny or like weird, and everybody would like really like. There were a lot of people, and this is true even now, people that like hate me for living the way that I do, and I think that really, you know, people look at a person like me and they see a person who has a number of things in their life that they wish they had, but I've done basically, you know, if you look at it from like, what do they tell you to do when you're growing up? You know, I used every single thing to do as a checklist of what not to do, right? And so, you know, I think that a lot of people could be a little bit, you know, annoyed by that. And so I can see why, and et cetera, and it is disgusting, by the way. And so, you know, missing half your teeth and, you know, living in a dump with a dead rat alarm clock. You don't know if your mom's going to be alive that day. You've got no money. You have to support her. She's never going to be able to support herself. And things are just basically slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And I started doing YouTube, and things started doing a little bit better. I started doing streaming. Things were doing better then. I went to get my teeth fixed, because if you look at my old videos, a lot of my old videos, you'd notice that I smile. You know, when I smile, I cover my mouth when I smile. The reason for that is, this isn't Saikuno, where I don't like my smile. Yeah, well, I don't like my smile. It's not because I think it's ugly. It's because I didn't have any fucking teeth. And I didn't want people to see that. And so that's why I would cover my mouth a lot whenever I first started streaming. And so this happened to me for a long time. I go to the dentist, and they tell me it's going to be like around $50,000 to get all my teeth fixed and everything taken care of. Then I thought, maybe, because it was the first time at that point where I kind of like, it really hit me that I had like irreversibly and irreparably damaged my life in a way that I couldn't just immediately like undo. Because like as a kid, you know, usually you make a mistake where it's like you scrape your knee and then, well, you put a bandage on and it gets better. But with this, it never was going to get better, and it's only going to get worse, and it certainly has, by the way. And so anyway, I did want to kill myself, but I decided instead of killing myself, I'd do something even worse. I'd start streaming. And I started streaming because I wasn't really making enough money. And everybody says, oh, well, I started streaming because, you know, I like interacting with people. It's because I was lonely. Well, I started streaming for money. I needed some fucking money. And so that's what I did. And I was like, guys, we've got a donation goal of $100, and, you know, if we get $100, I'm going to go to Wendy's tomorrow. And I would always meme it up, you know, $1 equals one donut, and it's like, you know, I would make a bunch of money, and it was great. And things actually did go very well. I streamed every single night. I was very dedicated. I tried to make things as entertaining as possible, and, you know, I did what I tried to do best, right? And things kind of got better, and they improved. This happened just at pretty much the same time. A lot of my friends were kind of evolving and going past, you know, like college, like they were getting careers, getting married, having kids. And like now I'm pretty sure, I'm thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure every single friend that I have is either married or has a kid, which is kind of crazy considering that, you know, I'm sitting here doing what I'm doing, but it is kind of weird. I'm 34 now, which is, honestly, a fucking shock. Like, I can't believe it. I don't feel 34. I feel like I'm still 16. But I look in the mirror, I see my hairline, and I think to myself, oh my god, wait a minute, I think I'm actually 34. And if I'm really not sure, I talk to somebody who's 16, and then I realize, hold up, wait a minute, no, actually I am 34. Because there's no better way to realize that you're actually older until you talk to somebody who's actually younger. At least it is for me. So anyway, you know, my stream was doing very well. My social life, really, I pretty much like stopped interacting with a lot of friends of mine because I focused pretty much just on streaming and on making this as much as possible. And also, I'm a very introverted person in a lot of ways. I like being alone. I don't like people talking to me a whole lot. I don't like phone calls. I don't like interacting with people. I don't like going out. You guys might notice this, right? If it's, you know, a mystery or secret. And so, you know, big surprise, that's how it was. And then, you know, I started streaming. My stream started doing better. And there was a degree of, like, stress that created. But, and in terms of, like, my lifestyle and everything, living that way, I never really thought about it at that point. I never really worried too much about, like, kind of how you know, people would perceive me. I always viewed myself as like, you know, this is just who I am. This is what I am. That's all there is to it. And I never really took, and I still don't really take any criticism or any negativity to heart. I don't take it personally. I don't really care a whole lot. And so at the end of the day, it never really bothered me, and people thought it was funny. And so, you know, I had like these a snack box, and there were like maggots in the snack box, and I would eat the food with the maggots inside of the food. It was like honey buns, which were really, really good. And to be honest, I didn't even really taste them. So it was pretty much the same thing. It didn't even bother me. And so, you know, I had like taken at that point, you know, my teeth had like totally rotten out. And so I had taken pliers to like break pieces of my teeth off, even, you know, like if I wasn't able to speak during a stream, because like a point was like, you know, poking my tongue, or like, you know, playing a game or something like that, talking to people. And so I still have the pliers actually in my bathroom from all the way back then. And so this had happened for quite a while. And then I guess you could say, I started, like, I guess, like, the second phase of my life of, like, trying to remove myself from, like, caring about, being worried about the outcome of other people. It was always very scary for me to know that, like, you know, my mom would die one day, right? This was extremely scary. This was, like, the one thing that I didn't want to have happen. And in 2021, it did happen. And so leading up to that was incredibly stressful. She pretty much did everything that she possibly could. I love her, but she did every fucking thing that she could to make things as absolutely unpleasant as possible. Oh my God. And so, yes. It was very frustrating to deal with somebody like that. But, you know, she was 70 at the time. And so it really, really, really hurt. And it's, you know, like, she was the main person in my life that I was like most connected to, and like, you know, this is the person that I had like the deepest emotional connection with, and to just lose them, and it was kind of random, by the way. Like, things got worse over time, but it was nothing like at the very end there. It just kind of went off a fucking cliff. And so this happened, and then at about the same time, a little bit after that, I also broke up with a long-term girlfriend at the time. And then at the same time, my dad got so fucking sick that we were like talking about writing his will, like, and he's still setting all that up because he doesn't know if this shit's going to happen again, right? What's going to be? And he's 77 too, so it's rough, right? It's bad. And he went through pneumonia 4 fucking times in a year. And so, and he's still getting around, you know, going to the store, etc. But I got to help him every once in a while too, right? And it is what it is. And so, again, and you know, we don't have any family around here, and so, you know, if something goes wrong, if something's bad, there's one person who's responsible for that, and that's me. And so that's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure, right? And, you know, I had all 3 of these things happen to me within pretty much 1 year of each other, maybe 2 years with the thing with my dad. And so at that point, I began the second part of, I think that, like, you know, my, you know, abstraction of reality is that I've tried my best to remove myself from caring about other people as much as I can, and not caring about them in terms of, like, you know, being friendly. Of course I'm friendly with people, but being emotionally attached to having them in my life, being emotionally attached to the way that they feel about me and how they're doing. It's been very hard for me to actually have any sort of feelings towards people when it seems like everybody that was important to me is fucking dying. And so this, or leaving me, right? Or breaking up with me. So at a certain point, you just kind of get away from that. And then after that, you know, we entered into, I would say, the third phase, which is the point where I you know, lose the connection with myself. And I think that whenever I finally do that, I think that maybe one day I might be happy again. And what I mean by that is that I always worry about, like, dying and, you know, all this stuff, and like how I'm, you know, like where do you go, what happens, right? And it would be very, very stressful for me. And I usually reassure myself by reminding myself that I'm just a hyper-intelligent monkey that probably evolved too fast. And I think that we all are, by the way. It's not like I'm special. And that usually is oddly reassuring. But otherwise, it was very stressful for me. And I did think that I was farther along. I thought I would be okay with dying until I thought that I was dying, and then I realized that I wasn't as far along as I thought I was. Recently, whenever I had a blood pressure reading of 194, which is a high score so far, you know, at least so far. And so things have been improving since then, by the way. But anyway, this has been, you know, my life. And I stopped really caring about anything. I stopped caring about what happens to me. I stopped caring about what happens to other people. I stopped caring about what people think about me. And I felt that the more that I have, the more that I've cared about things, the more unhappy I've been as a person. And I think that this is true on like a base level. Is this some sort of pathological problem for me? I think it probably is. But at the end of the day, this is the best way that I know to cope with it, right? And so for me, the way that I live and everything is a manifestation of that. It's always been this way for me. My mom, like growing up, things were pretty messy, etc. But then even now, things are worse than they ever have been in terms of like being messy. But, you know, I never really think about it or worry about it because I'm just never really, it doesn't even cross my mind. I'm thinking about things that I want to think about. I'm doing things that I want to do. And I never think about what other people think about me. I don't think about how it affects other people. I don't think about how they feel or anything like that. And it might sound like a bad thing, but it's made me a happier and more fulfilled person, not worrying about anybody else really other than myself unless I have to. And it's been very like weird for me getting older, especially, and you know, like having like priorities change in your life, and you know, having different things happen to you. And so I wanted to make this video and kind of like explain like kind of how I got to be this way, and hopefully a little bit of this can like explain why do I behave this way, why am I like this, why do I have no shame with things, right? It's because I've lived a life where I've tried desperately to hold on to any degree of dignity that I've had and anything that I've had, and it's just slowly been taken away from me, whether it's myself, pieces of myself, other people, or the way that the world sees me. I think that the more that I've kind of just, you know, let things flow freely and not care about it, the more happy and content that I've been. And so it's an ongoing process, and began whenever I said, you know, I guess I said I was like 13, and you know, I guess the last thing for me to do is really to let go of myself and, you know, just finally be content with my own existence for the time that I exist. And I'm not really a religious person. I'm not a spiritual person either. I don't believe there's any light at the end of the tunnel. I definitely don't think so. And I just try to make the best of being in the tunnel. And so that's why I live the way that I do. That's why I do the things that I do. That's why I say the things that I do. That's why a lot of criticism and things like this, of course I don't like it. Of course I don't like it. But it doesn't really emotionally affect me in the same way that I think it does for other people. And it used to affect me a lot more, but I've, you know, gotten a little bit better at least at dealing with it. And so hopefully this can answer some questions and kind of give people a little bit more insight into my life and the kind of person I am. And that's pretty much about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have to cover. 30-minute video. Actually, I was expecting it to be longer. So, you know, that's my life story. That's what's happened to me in general. And that's why I am the way I am. And will I ever change? Maybe, maybe not, right? I mean, I honestly, like, you know, making a lot of money on Twitch and, you know, like the notoriety and everything, like people recognize you. I mean, I just, I mean, I guess it's nice, right? And I mean, sometimes it's, I mean, having money is way better than not having money. But in terms of like, you know, having a lot of wealth, I live in my same house. I use my same desk. I, you know, for a very long time drove my same car. I eat in the same places. I do the same things. I really haven't changed at all, honestly, ever since I was like younger, ever since my stream got popular. And maybe one day I will, maybe one day I won't. At the end of the day, I think that one thing that I've always really kind of focused on and thought about a lot is that I have complete and absolute agency over my own life. I can do anything that I want to do, and I can not do anything that I don't want to do. And I think that's been a very comforting fact. And so people ask me, like, are you ever going to do this? It's not something I'm really thinking about changing right now. But in the future, I might change my mind. I just don't know yet. And so I just try to live life and enjoy it, and you know, be able to experience things for the way that they're meant to be experienced. And really, I don't care a whole lot about that either. I don't care about, you know, going out or having certain life experiences, or, oh, you'll regret this. Well, who cares if you regret this when you're old? You're about to die anyway. It doesn't even matter. And so I've never really felt that way. It's just not, it's not in me. And so that's really my whole life. And that's why I live the way that I live. It's why I do things the way that I do things. And, you know, maybe one day it'll change. Maybe one day it won't. Who the fuck knows? Tune in next time to find out. So anyway, guys, hopefully this is a little bit more informative, etc. And shit, I got an early end for the day. We had to record something early, so I came home. I figured I'd record this, and it's only 6 p.m., and so I don't know what the hell to do with myself now. I'm not streaming. I'm going to go walk around my house like an NPC. And so, like, I don't know what to do. I'm probably going to go play video games. So anyway, guys, thank you all very much for watching. Thanks for listening if you've gotten this far. And yeah, things have been going great for me recently. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's been so supportive and everything. And, you know, my best way that I can say thank you is by doing more of it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. And that's about it. Peace.